my congregation was about 60 members. And one of the things that we like to do was singing. And we went to Africa a few years ago with my wife and a group of the conference workers to Malawi. And when we went to Malawi, we went to one of our missions there, and we spent a week with the members in there and the people. And two things that were amazing to me was the time that we spent praying with these people. There were so many needs. I was listening to the needs today, and most of the people were asking for someone sick, but these people were asking for work. And the interesting thing is that the salary was $1 per day. $1 per day, not even $1 per hour. It was $1 per day. So when I heard that, I said, "Whoa, we live in another world. We do not know what need is. We have so much." So I spent a lot of time praying for these people that were really needed. The other thing that caught my attention was to listen to them singing on the congregation on Sabbath, because the singing was a cappella, which means there were no instruments, but their voices were the instruments of heaven. One of the ladies started to sing a song from their hymnal, and the whole congregation was following that. And all of a sudden, when the song was kind of ending, another member of the congregation started to sing loud, and the whole congregation was following that. And then we spent a bunch of time doing that, and I was in the front because I was ready to get to go to preach, and I started to hear the children singing. And let me tell you, something got into your skin was the children singing, because they were singing loud and with conviction. And even though I couldn't understand anything they said because it was in their language, the music was really, really, truly inspiring. And they were singing in voices, different voices in the congregation. And probably nobody taught them how to do that. It was unnatural. It came by the Spirit, I would say, because it was very, very emotional and spiritual time. So thank you for God, for the music that He created to adore Him. And we can do a little bit of what the angels do, to sing, to say thank you for life and for the opportunity to get to know Him. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning, and I wanted to start the service today by together reading of, if I can find my, yes, I got it here. 2 Sabbaths ago, I was going through the introduction for the Sabbath school lesson, and I caught that introduction was to me precious, because it was exactly what I preach sometimes when I go to churches. The message was exactly the same. So I said, somebody's thinking exactly like me, and or I'm thinking exactly like the other person. So if we can put those quotations there in the screen, yes, thank you. In His mercy, God has always had people with whom He has maintained a special relationship. It's special to say that the Bible talks about relationships, and is a relationships based on love and respect, and what it comes from God is full of blessings. And through that relationships that God maintained, we have been blessed. We have been blessed for those who passed before us, and we are blessed as we maintain that relationship with God. Okay, this is supposed to be working. Okay. In the stories of Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, among others, we see God yearning to rebuild the broken relationship with human beings. So, today and the Sabbath is an opportunity to as it says there, rebuild that broken relationship with human beings. But this was not just for the benefit of the few individuals and their family. When they were connected with God and blessed by Him, it was part of a larger plan to repair the relationship and share what? The blessings with others. So the whole idea of having a relationship with human beings was to bless them and to do what? For the blessed ones to bless others. As Abraham, was blessed, he could be what? A blessing to others. I copied this from the introduction of the Sabbath school. So sometimes we think about people who are blessed, and when we think about blessed is what? What do we think when someone is blessed? Materials, money. Usually we think about that. But when one of those persons who have so much material blessings gets sick, no material blessing will compare to be healthy. So you start to think, and your priorities are start to what? To change. And then you say, when you have all that money, but your family is not following God, you say, what is more important here? And so when we think about blessings, the Lord has His arms open, and there are so many things that we can count as blessings from God, that we shouldn't concentrate on material things. But before that, all the spiritual things that will uplift our lives and make our lives meaningful will be the things that we can think about. So in that kind of relationship, especially with Abraham, he could share those kind of blessings. So unfortunately, I had a lot of words in that, so it's going to be hard to read for some of you. So God sent about giving them laws, regulations, festivals, and practices, talking about the people of Israel that came through the descendants of Abraham, and practices that will be a way to live so that those who were blessed by God will be able to what? Bless others as well. No doubt, this principle still what? Exists today. That's the way the introduction for the Sabbath school 2 Sabbaths ago ended. And this is the introduction for what I want to talk today. So if we go to the next series of slides, there are not too many. I just want to meditate in this concept of being blessed, to be a blessing. And you have it there as the title of the sermon. For that, I want to go to the quotation. Thank you. See, I love this picture because it's a hand. It looks like it's extended to where? To heaven, where the blessings come. But you know, sometimes we think that we want to get all the blessings we can. And what do we do with the blessings if we don't share them? The blessings will die and our hands probably will close, because we're thinking always about what? Me. Thinking about me. If Jesus had thought about him, none of us will be saved. So we need to take that example. You know, when he was in heaven, he didn't think of himself at all. He thought about us. And let me tell you, when I think about this, I get emotional because I cannot imagine what that was. being in heaven, with the glory of heaven, exalted among anything and everything, thinking about us. A little minute little human being in this universe, and spending his thought and coming, not only thinking but doing, by coming to bless us. It's that thought cannot get into my mind enough. So we are blessed to be a blessing. As you can see, when your hands are open, you can always give. When your hands are closed, then you're not able to give. So I want to go to this text that is in Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Very important 3 verses that we're going to analyze. The Lord has said to Abraham, leave what? Your country. And I added the word leave to the other expressions, because if you look in the Bible, there's only one leave in there. But I added the word leave because I wanted to put more emphasis. Leave your country, and then what? Leave your people, and leave what? You know, we read this, and we say, yeah, easy to do. I don't know you, but in my case, it wasn't easy to do. And I don't know how many of you come from other countries, but I come from Uruguay, South America. My family was an Adventist family, in a very small country that is very atheist. So not easy to, be a Christian in an atheist country. But the Lord always gets into your heart, and you can live whatever He wants you to live. So I had to leave my country as Abraham had to leave his country, and some of you probably did too. And if you haven't left your country, you left your state where you were born. Because if I ask you how many were born in this state, in this city, very few of you probably will raise your hands. We all have to leave something to come to Florida or to here. Either you leave your country or your state, and when you do that, you also leave what? Your people. And for many of us, you left your culture where you were born too. Not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do. And also leave what? Your father's household. Today we move so much that we don't care. I mean, my parents are there, I'm studying here, and I'm going to go there, and they move. And, we move about 18 times. So it's crazy. You're moving all over the place. I remember that in my family and my neighbors, nobody moved. I was the only one probably in my whole neighborhood that moved out of my neighborhood. I went back to my paternal house last year because my father was very active in the church, very active. I barely saw my father any Sabbath. He was always preaching around. He wasn't a pastor. He was an elder, a lay pastor, and he was always preaching, or he started some kind of work because he was one of the founders of many of the churches in Montevideo, the capital of Uruguay. So for the last 25 years of his life, he spent the time building a congregation and then a church, a building. So I was a child, and my father was never there. And no Sabbath he was there with us. He spent the Sabbath there. Because we didn't have much money, we couldn't go with him to where he was, because we didn't have any money to even pay for the bus ticket. So he used to go there and do that. So I used to miss my father because he was never there, but he was a blessing to others. So like I was saying, he had to leave everything behind. And because at that time was so important, family was so important, even though it's not so important for us, unfortunately, today. The whole family says move out of Ur and went to, remember? Haran. And from there, after the father died, they moved through the desert to go to Canaan. A big, big, big thing, because leaving was not that easy. When you leave your country, you live the way you live, you left the way you live, your comfort, and you left the people that you know, your friends, and you start leaving everything else behind. And when you do that, then you say, what am I doing with my life? And you start thinking, where am I going? Why am I moving from this place to that place and from one place to another? Like I said, we are used to do that here. It wasn't easy to do there at that time. I remember I was 17 years old, and I moved from Uruguay because I wanted to study theology, and I wanted to study musicals. So the only place I could go was outside of Uruguay. Uruguay has a membership of about 5,000 members. And for the last 40 to 50 years, it's been from like 5,000 to 7,000 members. And it's been a country with about the size of Florida with 3 million people. And it's been like that for the last 50 years. Okay? Nothing changed. I was reading the other day an article saying that Uruguay was getting more atheists than more Christian. So my mind was saying, wow, the Lord has to do something special here. So at 17, I had to leave the country. I had to leave my parents to go to Argentina to study theology. I had the opportunity to go to Brazil or Argentina, because in Uruguay, no way you could study theology in one of our universities. So if I went to Brazil, I had to learn Portuguese. Never liked any idioms, never liked any languages. Never liked to learn Portuguese, never liked to learn Spanish. Even though you say, oh, you speak Spanish. Yes, I do speak Spanish. But I never liked the grammar. I hated grammar. I just wanted to talk. Don't give me all these rules and regulations and different things, how to form the phrases and all that stuff. Ooh. And then in high school, we learned French, not English. Because our first educator went to France in the 1800s to learn about education. So he educated himself in France and came back to bring the education system from France, which is a very atheist country. And that's why you kind of think, ooh, that's why Uruguay was an atheist country. What they thought was French in high school, no English. So I went to Argentina, and I said, Argentina, they speak Spanish. And they speak kind of like we do. So I come from a little high school, about 250 students, to a university that has more than 1,000 students. So when I was in this little high school, I was very popular. You know, I was cute. And thing that I said was, okay? I was skinny. I was popular because I knew how to talk and how to sing. And there were not too many, unfortunately, that did that. So I was popular. All the girls were looking at me. That's what I thought. So I went to Argentina. Boy. And I said, I'm going to be popular here too. Whoa. More than 1,000 students, nobody knew who I was. I was another Uruguayan that came to Argentina. So for the first 3 months, I suffered. After 3 months, I thought, I'm going back to Uruguay, man. This is too tough. I don't have many friends, and you know, I'm not popular. Nobody knows who I am. Blah blah blah. So I said, what if I go to Uruguay? What am I going to do in Uruguay? Being with my family, maybe, because my parents were old and they probably need me. But they wanted me to go and study and, you know, grow. They couldn't do that, so they want me to do that. So after 3 months, I said, well, it's going to be tough, but I'm going to have to stay. So After a while, I got a group of Uruguayans that were like me, kind of lost, and I started to participate in singing groups. And after a year, I became popular again. Wow, my ego was up to here again. That's the problem we have, right? Too much ego. So after that year, I finished again high school, because when you come from Uruguay, you have to do one more year high school in Argentina. And I had to get ready for my theology. The problem is that I didn't have any money. So 4 years of theology plus 3 years of music, 4 years, it was going to be like 7 to 8 years if I could study every year. But since I couldn't study every year, it was going to be double, because 1 year I worked throughout the next summer, and throughout the year, next year, I worked 4 or 5 hours a day to be able to pay for 1 year. So it was taking me, or it will take me 14 to 15, maybe 16 years. 16 years. Man, I thought about that and I said, maybe I will have grandchildren. And they would say, Grandpa, you're still studying, after 16 years. So the years went by, and I was studying 1 year, working 1 year. Stuff when you start your theology with a group of friends, and when the next year you're not there, so they continue, and then you start with the second year of theology with another group that came 2 years behind, and you don't know anybody, and these guys are already almost graduating. So I always felt like, wow, this is never going to end. But when the Lord calls you to do something, He calls you for a reason. And He will teach you things that you don't understand at the time. I remember in '81 that I was singing in the choir. We were 24, so we sung all over the place. We were to different countries singing. We participated in national competitions. And so the school was well known because of the music and the choir. And that year, they decided to come to the United States. Wow. Like a month in the United States, or 2 months in the United States, going around and promoting the university throughout the different states in the United States. What a privilege. When you come from South America and you're a little thing from there in that little country, coming to the United States is a dream. It's a true dream. But the problem was that I needed to pay for my ticket. And since I was working and never seeing any money, because they used to pay you with hours. So you raised 3,000 hours, that was the goal for you to study next year. So I never saw any money. To pay for the trip was about $800, which I could probably pay about 6 months of my studies with that. Impossible. So my dream crashed in front of me. Everybody else, the 23, my 23 co-singers and friends, because we were a very close group, came to the United States, but me. That was really tough. Really tough. But the Lord knows better why. Some of them didn't have any money like me, but they asked to different people, and they got money. They got money lended to them. By the end of 1981, there was a catastrophic thing in the economy of Argentina, and the dollar went up like 1,000% from one day to the next. Many people lost all their money. Many people suicided themselves. I thought, after that, Lord, you saved me from not being able to study probably anymore, because I had to work for years and years to pay for those $800. And you saved me from that. See, at the end of the year, I understood that the Lord had a plan for me, that it was even bigger than coming to the United States. So in 1983, I met this beautiful girl that is here with us. and her parents are here too, so I cannot say anything wrong about her or them. So I'm in a disadvantage here right now. So she became my friend, and after you spend some time being friend, what happens? Something has to happen, right? So we got into a relationship, and then one day she says, I got something to tell you. I am going back to United States. And I said, I'm dead. So you have two options. One, you come with me and you learn the language, which I love languages. You learn the language, you know a new culture, you get adjusted to something, and your mind will expand because you've always been here. So when you see something different, what happens? Your mind expands and you learn. Yes. So that was one of the options, the tough one. The easiest, but not so easy because I needed to keep, studying and working and studying and working, was to stay. So, men, we are so obedient. But we have the last word, right? Which is, yes, my dear. So we came to the States with zero English and zero interest of learning English. But then I realized, if I don't learn the language, I'm dead in the water. Because I'm not going to be able to study. I'm not going to be able to be who God wants me to be and who I can be for others. So let me tell you, it was really tough to learn the language. So I started to study and to work and to do everything I could. We got married. And we both were studying and working almost full time, and that is really tough also. But the Lord blessed us. And little by little, the water got into the coconut. And I started to learn the language. And amazing, the things God can do. Let me tell you, God can do anything when you become, when you're in a relationship with God, and God has a plan for you, for each one of us, God has a plan. If you listen to the plan of God, He will do it. No matter what kind of problems you may have, or the difficulties, He will help you to be a blessing. So, I started to study English and some theology, and after a few years, I finished my theology and my music. And not only that, when I finished studying, I owe $0. And remember, when you study in an Adventist university, you have to pay. This is not something that comes from heaven. Fortunately, I had grants and loans and different things that we paid it off. When I finished my studies, I owe $0. And you know what? Another surprising thing, I ended my theology and my music before the 14 years that I was going to spend in Argentina studying there. So, tell me if the Lord is not good. I always felt blessed. I always felt blessed in many, many ways. And the Lord gave us 2 sons. Both of them were able to study medicine, finish medicine in Argentina, and now they're trying to get into a residence here in the United States. The Lord keeps blessing us. When we think about God, God thinks about us and does everything that is necessary for us to do whatever He asks us to do. Because it's not about us. It's about God. That's why God said to Abraham, I will make you into a great, what? Nation. Was Israel a great nation? Well, not so much for what we study in the Sabbath school today, right? Whenever they listened to God, they were a great nation. Wherever they disobeyed God, they were a little nation. But, of course, the great nation was because the great one that came through this nation, which was Jesus Christ. So that's why it was a desire of God to be a great spiritual nation. It says, I will make you into a great nation. I will what? Bless you. Was Abraham blessed? In many ways. In many ways. With faithfulness, with obedience, with faith, with family, with richness. For what? I will make you a great name. Your name will be great. Was his name great? Even today, we think about Abraham as one of the greatest of the Bible. The Jews recognize him as a great patriarch. And even the Muslims think that he was a great man. Remember? They started from there, all the Arab nations. For what? So God said, leave your country, leave your people, leave your father's household. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. For what? And you will be a blessing. See, it's interesting. All of these things were made by whom? By Abraham? No, by God. God was the one who originated everything. God is the one that still originates everything in our lives. And the blessings will come only by God. So the purpose of Abraham was to be a great nation, a great name, and have all these blessings, to be a blessing. And that's the purpose of a Christian too. The purpose of a Seventh-day Adventist is exactly the same. As God has blessed us, we need to be a blessing. When Abraham came to Canaan, right after that, they had a famine, remember? And he had to go to where? Move out of Canaan to go to Egypt. Remember? That he brought his wife and said his wife was his what? Sister. And in reality, it was his half-sister. So it was a half-lie that counted like what? One. And for something that we do wrong, because God knows our heart and that we make mistakes, he will keep blessing others through us. Because I was thinking about this and I said, how can this be a blessing? And you know, it was a blessing for the Egyptians because they will never know about this true God if it wasn't because of Abraham going there. God sent dreams to Pharaoh and also sent what? Plagues. So there weren't only the plagues at the time of Moses. They had plagues before. And because of the dreams and the plagues, Pharaoh learned about the true God. But not only Pharaoh knew about the true God, the whole nation knew about the true God. And they asked, and the Bible says that they gave him a lot of material things to Abraham. And when he left, chapter 13 says that Abraham was richer than when he came into Egypt. Not only that, the whole nation knew about the true God through a liar. See what kind of thing God can do? Because God knew his heart and knew that he lied that time, that but he will be a faithful man. And we can consider how Abraham was a blessing to others by thinking about Lot. When Lot was there, he wanted a better piece of land. Abraham said, take it. The Lord is with me. So the Lord will take me wherever he wants to. Not only that, because Lot was close to Sodom and Gomorrah, there was a fight, there was a war between the kingdoms around there. And one day they came and took all Sodom, all the people, and took them away with all their goods and the people. And Abraham did what? He took 300 of his servants and went after these people and rescued Lot. And by rescuing Lot, he gave an example to all these kingdoms about the true God, because they tried it and they couldn't rescue them. But Abraham only with 300, rescue them. And when he rescued them, says the Bible, the king of Sodom came out and said, Abraham, you're a great man. Give me the people that are my people and take all the money and the goods. What would you do? You would say, like many say, God is super good. More blessings. Because we were thinking about material things. More blessings. More money so this nation can be super great now. The nation of Israel was not good. No, it was not great for the material things they had. They were great because of the God they had. And we are not good because of the material things we have. We are good because of the God we have. And this God has everything we need and more. So when the king came up and said, Abraham, give me the people, Abraham said, here's your people. And take the money. Abraham said, thank you. No. He said, I don't want anything from you, and I don't want anything from these people. Not even a shoelace, says the Bible. Because you will think that you make me rich. And you're not the one who's making me rich. And I'm not here for the purpose of being rich for you. I am here because God has sent me here to bring a message that is richer than all the money that you may give me. And you know what? After that, another king came out. Melchizedek. And the Bible says that Abraham gave them the 10th of everything he had. So that was the first mention of the tithe. In this context, where God is blessing him. And sometimes he couldn't understand, because the whole purpose of this was to make this great nation, but Abraham had a problem, right? Just a little problem. His wife couldn't have babies. So how are you going to have a great nation? I need to help God. I need to help God. God messed up on this one. Don't we think that way sometimes? We need to help God. Do we? No. Every time we try to help God, we do the things that we consider that are important to God, instead of listening to what God says is important to him. And then when we do that, we do mess up. And Abraham tried to help God, and that's why we have all these conflicts and things on earth today, because he wanted to help God. Until he recognized, after God came to him several times and said, I promise you this, and I will bring a baby. No matter what happens to your wife. And to him, this more miracles and different. She's going to have a baby when she's 90 years old, and you're going to be 99, and both of you are laughing because of that. But the Bible says that God said to Abraham, is there anything impossible to God? At 99 years old, Abraham was learning still about God. And he left Ur when he was 75, time for retirement. At 99, he was learning about the will of God. God was gracious still. We can always learn from God. Learn to be a blessing. And you know, it's interesting that God was in control there, and God was in control of what happens within the last years of Abraham, and whenever he was already dead, God was in control. Because remember, he had his son, Isaac. And when the time came for Isaac to get married, what happened? Another miracle, remember? He sent a servant, he went to this place, and he found the girl with the camels and the water. You know the story. But this girl had a little problem. She was also what? Barren. She couldn't have children. Oh. So there's another miracle that needed to be done, and another way that Abraham and his family had to depend on God for this blessing. So Abraham was promised to have this nation, but his wife couldn't have a child. And his son was promised this, and his wife couldn't have a child. But then they had a child. Actually, they had two, remember? Esau and Jacob. And Jacob was elected by God in a weird way. And Jacob wanted to have a wife, remember? And something happened that he received one that he didn't want it, but he wanted, but I don't know. I'm not going to get into details because I don't know what happened there. But then the other wife that he really wanted had a little problem. She was also barren. Wow. For 3 generations, God was telling them, I'm going to keep my promise through miracles. And if you think today that God is not doing that, you shouldn't be a Christian. Because God is still doing the same miracles today. Even with faulty people. Because these were faulty people like us. But God wanted to show us that you can become a blessing no matter what you think. Or no matter who you think you are. If He takes you, if He chooses you, you will be a blessing. And I love to work in this department because you can be a blessing in many ways to others. And you can be a blessing to your church today. You can be a blessing to your church tomorrow and to your neighborhood and to people around you. And even dead, you can be a blessing. You can still be a blessing. It's a miracle. God has been a blessing to me. I remember like 3 years ago when I started to work in this department. I've been here for 4 years ago. We had a plan of blessing some of our brothers in China. Remember the project? If you give $1,500 a year, you will sponsor a Chinese Bible worker to go and open new work in a city in China. Cities even greater as 7 million people. More than Uruguay, twice as big as Uruguay, without no Adventist. And some of these people started to do that. And we received a bunch of stories about what they did. So I was talking to my wife, we need to do something about it. We will participate on this. It's a call of God. So God will bless us and we will be a blessing. So that night we were talking about this and we went to sleep and we kind of forgot about it. 3-4 days after, we received a check for $2,000 from, you know who? Uncle Sam. When you pay your taxes, when do you receive money back? Tell me. I've been here in this country for 30-something years. I never received money back. When you pay what you pay, it's because you owe. And when you owe, you owe. But I don't know what happened there in the calculator or something. I don't know. I still don't understand. They sent me $2,000 back. And that was a reminder. And there was plenty to be a blessing to these people. So with my wife said, we'll use this money to send it for China. So what does God need from us? He only needs from us our decision. The only thing He wants from us is to read our hearts and see, yes, he is committed, she is committed to this. And because he or she is committed, I will bless him or her. That's all He needs. We sometimes say, oh, I don't have nothing to left to the church. That is sad, because you did something throughout your life that was not thinking about God probably. Okay? And even thinking that way, even be at fault, God can bless you. When you say, I don't have nothing now, but if God bless me in different ways, I will have many things to bless my church, my neighborhood, my family, whatever the Lord puts into my hands. And let me tell you, when you think that way, the Lord will bless you. When you think that way, you will always have for different things. We are thinking now about opening a school in Broward. And we need to raise $600,000 to open that school. Someone already donated like $3 million. One person. But we are committed to, the conference is committed to. So the conference is donated about $600,000. We need to reach and, receive another $600,000. Where is that money coming? I don't know. But if this is a plan of God, that money will come. And let me tell you, I am committed to participate in that plan. I'm one of the ones who are raising or trying to raise this money, but I'm committed to help. I want to be part of that. I see what the Lord is doing, how the Lord is opening doors. So I want to be part of that. See? And the more we think about being a blessing, the more the Lord will bring opportunities for us to be a blessing. Someone came from Kyrgyzstan. That is the part of the 1040 window where there is 2/3 of the population of the world and only few thousand Adventists in that window. And someone came and said, in Kyrgyzstan we're doing this and we're doing that and we're doing this other things that we don't used to do here because it's a different way to reach people out there. And I said, I'm going to contribute to that. And we, with my wife, decided to contribute with that. So we contribute with that. Last year I went back to where my father started that church, and they needed some things, and I said, the Lord has blessed me. I can help with this. So, when the Lord gives you, and He presents opportunities for you to serve, be willing to. And let me tell you, you will never have need of anything because the Lord will go in front of you, preparing the way for whatever He's going to ask you. He's not behind you. He's in front of you. So if He's going to ask you for something, He already has the solution for that something. Believe and trust God that He will do that. And your life is going to be a lot different. And because of that, I just want to conclude. I just want to end. There's one more verse in the, no, there's no more verses. I mean, the Bible says in verse 3, I just want to read it. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Praise the Lord. We have been blessed. We're not going to be blessed. We have been blessed. So the Lord has done what He said He will do. It's our part now to trust. Trust and believe. And we need to trust and believe that He said He was coming back to earth, and He will. And this song talks about that. Until then, it's a hymn in the Bible. And I wanted to sing this just to remind us that we're not here just because of coincidence. God had brought us here for a purpose. I guess I'm going to use one of these mics. And He will do what He set out to do. And remember, after this, we have another blessing. We have potluck. Okay? So you're invited to stay and be part of this special time. And if you have any questions, I'm here to try to answer the questions you may have. Please think about questions. I like to answer questions. Thank you. More volume, please. My heart can sing
When I pause to remember, a heartache here is but a stepping stone along the trail that's winding always upward. This troubled world is not my final home.